Have you ever heard one of your friends or your colleagues or your parents or pretty much anyone in your network say, I'm invested in bonds? And you thought to yourself, cool, what the heck's a bond? Well, they're not referring to what you see the bad guys in shows like Law and Order pay to get out of prison. Sorry, that's a bit of a joke. What they're referring to is bonds in the financial markets. And a bond is basically a loan that you give to someone else. Now, that can be a government or a company. But instead of you asking for money, you're the one that is lending it out. An example could be, let's make it really simple. Think of it like this, yeah? Imagine you've a friend that wants to open a glasses shop, yeah? It's the first thing that came to mind, sorry. And he says, hey, lend me $100. I'll pay you back in 3 years, and I'll give you $5 every year as a thank you. Well, it wouldn't really be a thank you. That would be what we would call the interest or the coupon on the bond. And at the end, they pay back the funds that they have borrowed from you, and they also give you the interest. Now, that interest can be distributed yearly, it can be rolled up, whatever. There's many ways to do it. And there's a lot more to bonds than this that I'll cover in further videos. So this is more just like an introduction. But that's how they work. But mostly they are to governments and very large organisations. Now, in the US, they would be called treasury bills. In the UK, they're called gilts. And they pay regular interest, like I said, which is called the coupon. They are usually, and I say usually, less risk than equities. That does not mean that they are risk-free. This is really important. But they are good for steady income. Now, I don't want to get too complex in this video because bonds can be bought below par and over par. And I'm going to cover that in much more detail because it's a bit more technical, I guess you could say. However, they're really useful within a portfolio, especially if you're a low-risk investor and you are looking for reliable income, yeah? That's why you'll see a lot of pension funds use them and, they're safer and more reliable. Now, there are different categories of bonds, like even from governments. The US treasuries are seen as, usually are seen as, the US is a bit volatile at the moment with the current administration, as a safe haven, yeah, because they've never defaulted. So that is what makes them extremely desirable. And when you see a rush out of equity markets, usually people will go into bonds, treasury bills, or the likes, gold, cash, whatever that may be. Yeah. And corporate bonds are more risky. However, they'll usually offer a higher coupon stroke interest rate. And then going back to countries, and I don't want to jump all over the place here, right? But there are what you can call junk bonds. Now, I'm not going to name any countries in particular here, but these would be countries that were deemed much higher risk. Countries that may have defaulted, countries that may have went through, are going through political turmoil. And with these, they will offer much larger coupon stroke interest rates. However, the default risk is much higher and there is a lot more risk to the capital that you have invested. Now, what a lot of people don't understand about the bond market, or what you could actually call the debt market, is it absolutely dwarfs equities, FX, any other. It is colossal. And it is so important to the financial well-being and stability of the globe. And I will cover that more in further videos. This is just a little intro to give you basically an intro to bonds. So if you want further information, I'm also gonna share some summary on the show notes, and you can always email us at info@expatmoneychat.com. Thanks for listening, watching, much appreciated. Cheers.